the Los Angeles Chargers, I would say, won the night. You go out and get the best tackle in Joe Alt. First of all, just look at him. That is not a small chair.
Want to watch football without the restrictions of blackouts or cable? Check out expressvpn.com to help you get access to all the live games. Sign up today using the link in the description to get 3 free months.
Yo to Bolt fam, it's your happy-go-lucky buddy, the director, here to talk to you guys about the selection of Joe Alt in the first round of the 2024 NFL Draft. For real though, guys, sit down. We need to have a serious conversation, okay? This is me getting serious, the director getting serious, because honestly, I get it. The Joe Alt pick was not what all of us expected. I'm going to lump myself in there too, man. I'm not going to BS you guys and say I wouldn't have gone Malik Neighbors. I totally would have gone Malik Neighbors. But that doesn't stop this from being a very, very good pick. And me, honestly, again, I want you guys to approach me and my channel, or at least this conversation, knowing that my perspective is coming from as a fan, first and foremost, and honestly as your buddy that doesn't want you to miss out on something fun and exciting on the team, because it isn't what all of us expected. I've spent the majority of my evening and this morning trying to help, Chargers fans come to terms with it, make heads or tails of it, and most importantly, share with you guys at least my optimism for why I know that this is still a great pick for the Chargers. It's a responsible pick for the team, and ultimately it's one that we probably should have seen, from a mile away coming, because the Jim Harbaugh era has arrived, and he's going to build this team in the image that he sees fit, in the image that it's going to win football games. Okay, so today's video, we're going to make heads and tails of this and try and figure out our own emotions as Chargers fans, because yes, there's a lot to unpack here, but hopefully by the end of the video, in my sharing of my experience at least, we can all feel pretty good about the Joe Alt pick and look forward to what the Chargers could continue to build in the draft over the weekend. We still have 6 rounds to go, and there's a lot of time to still add that big weapon that we're all looking for, to add those pieces to the offense that'll help Justin Herbert. I think once the dust has settled and we see all 7 rounds concluded, I have a feeling the Joe Alt pick is going to look a lot better on paper. So before we do kickoff, shout out to the sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Use code DIRECTOR to match your first deposit up to $100. Get in on the action. Newcomers take advantage of the special on screen. Also hit us up with a like and sub if you do enjoy this Chargers content. The small amount of time you guys take to the like, sub, bell notification helps me out a lot. Let's get into it. Lights, camera,
Action!
With the 5th pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Los Angeles Chargers select Joe Alt, tackle out of Notre Dame. I know everybody probably had a different reaction to hearing that news dropped last night. I know Malik Neighbors, I know Rome Odunze. These were probably the players at the top of everybody's lists, mine included, okay? But I couldn't help but feel this morning, especially with some of the news that was coming on Twitter via the Chicago Bears poking fun at the Chargers, for their recent trade. One of the first things that I started thinking about was the reasoning as to why the fandom, me included, felt so hurt and stung by the fact that we moved on from one of these generational wide receivers. And I have to believe it's because of the move that transpired, like a month ago now, in the Chargers trading away Keenan Allen to the Chicago Bears. Yes, the money complications were probably a big reason for it, but nonetheless, this was a beloved player to the Chargers fan base. A big hit to me personally as a fan too. Like, this is my dude, man. And one of the last San Diego Chargers made their departure, and it left a pretty big hole. And I felt, and it's something that I actually tweeted just a little while ago, I felt that the Chargers had a very clear avenue to not help themselves in the wide receiver department, but help make it up to the fans a little bit in getting rid of Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. Now, earlier today, the Bears, they tweeted this, or I should say they put it on Insta. They say, Keenan says hi. That's not cool. That's not cool. Keenan, definitely a beloved player by us. Poking fun at that is not going to get any giggles out of the Chargers fan base. It's going to, light a fire in our bellies. But then I went up and I posted this. This right here is why us, the fans, felt the sting of passing on Neighbors yesterday. We are still hurting from this. And we wanted an incentive to move on. We still have that chance, though. This class is loaded at wide receiver, and remember, Keenan himself was a third-round pick. Keenan Allen and the big cleats that he left behind to fill by hopefully what we were hoping to be a rookie sensation, that wasn't going to happen in the first round. And I think, at least for me, it's a big reason why I felt a certain way on passing on wide receiver at pick number 5. Very special wide receivers available there. The only guys that I, as a fan, felt worthy of filling into that Keenan Allen position, that Keenan Allen role on the offense, something that would have made me feel tremendously better for the team and for Justin Herbert and his weapons going into the season. But instead, the Chargers decided to go the route of offensive line in Joe Alt, the left tackle out of Notre Dame. Now, first off, I'm going to tell you guys what my immediate, honest to God, like down-to-earth reaction was. The very first jolt of electricity in my body was a sense of relief. And it's because earlier that day and the evening before, maybe the day, a couple of days before that, the big rumor had been that, yes, the Chargers did want to go offensive line, but instead they wanted to go J.C. Latham, who, mind you, I think is going to be a great football player. He would have been a solid first rounder for the Chargers, but in my personal perspective, it would have been a pretty big reach. And that is something that I was hoping and praying I wouldn't hear on draft night. The commissioner, with the 5th pick, the Chargers select JC. I would have literally jumped out a window. Like, that is just too... I mean, I could literally not, of course. I would have tried to make heads and tails of it and be like, okay, all right. We got ourselves the tackle. But not in any way that I'm talking about this. This is a completely different feeling. Because when Joe Alt and those words were uttered into the microphone last night, I felt the relief instantly. Yes, followed by being a bit gutted that we didn't go for the wide receiver. I'm not even going to lie. Big gutted that we didn't go for the wide receiver. But then returned the sense of relief that at least we got the guy at pick number 5 for the Chargers at offensive line. Because in my mind, there was no other player at offensive line worth that number 5 pick. There was one guy and one guy alone, and his name was Joe Alt. And that's because Joe Alt, when you take a look at this draft class, and it's very easy to identify this with the wide receivers, you say, oh my God, Marvin Harrison Jr. We put him up on a pedestal. We tell ourselves, this is a generational guy. This is the next big thing in football. We're looking at Larry Fitzgerald of the future. Very easy to see that in Marvin Harrison. Take a look at Malik Neighbors. Oh my God, this is the next big playmaker. Take a look at Rome Odunze. Oh my God, this is the next prototypical big success at wide receiver. Very easy to identify that, honestly, with skilled position players, and that made me very excited as well with an opportunity to draft one of those. But something that I did cover very many times on the channel, and something that I myself came to discover as a fan, was just how special Joe Alt was. And this is something that really changed my whole emotion on the idea of taking an offensive lineman at 5. Because I got to look and believe and understand for myself, especially after the combine, just how unique of a prospect this is. The notion or the emotions and the hype that I just talked about with Malik Neighbors and especially Marvin Harrison Jr., very easy to identify that. The same can be said for Joe Alt at tackle. It's just not the sexy position. But don't be fooled. Joe Alt is a very special prospect. He deserves to be up there with Marvin Harrison Jr. as one of the most talented prospects in this entire draft, regardless of position. Me personally, I had Marvin Harrison Jr. 1-1, as the best, most talented prospect in this draft. Then probably Caleb Williams, who we don't need at quarterback, and then Joe Alt. Very close between him and Malik Neighbors. And I still probably would go Malik Neighbors because of how big a need we had still have a wide receiver. But Joe Alt, in no shape or form, was not the best player available, at least in some, capacity to me and many fans, but especially the front office and Joe Hortiz, Jim Harbaugh. The biggest thing I think I kept saying was, honestly, this dude was probably best player available on their board. If it was Malik Neighbors, I think they could have easily gone that way too. But the fact that he's a tackle, it does help their agenda to move into this new system. It does help the new idea of a Jim Harbaugh-led team. But in the end, I think it was best player available. And it's something that's going to be a huge impact on this team because of just how special this guy is. We often talked about Marvin Harrison Jr. being very, big potential to be the next Larry Fitzgerald, right? Who's to say that Joe Alt couldn't be the next Joe Thomas? Because that really is the reality of the situation. A lot of guys out there, a lot of analysts, which again, this is coming from the mouth of a fan, listening to these analysts, are saying that Joe Alt, him and Penei Sewell are the two best prospects at tackle that they have graded in the last 10, 15 years. That got overshadowed this year by the elite wide receiver prospects. And it's something that I don't want the fans to miss out on in terms of understanding. I get if you guys aren't hyped, and again, I'm not here to police your opinions or your emotions or your reactions or your anything when it comes to the Chargers pick. If you wanted 5 to be Malik Neighbors and you're upset about it, go ahead and talk about it. It's completely healthy, it's completely normal, it's completely fine by me for that opinion to make its waves through the internet. But as your buddy, because let's be honest, it's kind of the premise and what I built this channel to be. I don't have a huge company of Chargers fans to go geek out over. You guys are my peers in this big passion of mine as the Chargers. And I like to think of myself as your friend, okay? As your friend, I'm telling you right now, this was an awesome pick. This was an awesome, awesome pick. And fortunately for me, I got to understand it for myself weeks ago. I put out a few videos on the idea of Joe Alt, a couple of shorts on how good this pick could potentially be. But like everybody else, I steered my attention to the receivers because that's where the hype was. But as your buddy, I'm telling you, this is an awesome, awesome pick, and I don't want you to miss out on the excitement of what he could bring to the team because it's not a skill position. And to kind of help, especially you old fogies out there, understand the impact that this is going to have on the Chargers, I have to remind you, at least in my experience and my time of being a Chargers fan, what memory lane has to offer in terms of this position for the longest time for me. Joe Barksdale, back in the day, with Phillip Rivers. Rivers had a couple of okay tackles through his career, but it's been a mess for a long time. Joe Barksdale at right tackle. That was a disaster. Brian Bulaga, he had a few really good games, but just could not stay healthy. That was a disaster. Sam Tevy, a lot of hope and potential for him. That was a disaster. Storm Norton, that was a disaster. Up until recently, Trey Pipkins was a disaster. I still have a feeling that he's going to be pretty good. He's got a couple years left in his contract, but for the most part, not the fan favorite at right tackle for the Chargers of the last decade. You know what that resulted in as a Chargers fan? What I've watched for the last 10, 15, 20 years? It's been this. It's been Phillip Rivers, week after week after week, running for his life, taking big shots, trying to put the game on his shoulders, trying to be Superman, trying to be more than what the team should be asking him to be. And for years and years and years, we begged the Chargers to fix this offensive line and send help for Phillip Rivers. All of a sudden, I'm starting to see the same thing unfold with our new stud quarterback in Justin Herbert. Now, already I'll say Herbert's gotten more help than Phillip Rivers. Rashawn Slater, Zion Johnson, Sawyer has been a nice hit. Signing of Corey Linsley, even though he's likely retiring this season, he's had a lot of help. But that line is far from complete, especially now that we need to grab a center and tackle. I started watching the same kind of pattern unfold with Justin Herbert. And honestly, it's something that in the moment, when you watch Herbert go down, and you see him take that big hit, and you watch him try to play Superman in the fourth quarter with 3 minutes left on the clock, down by 1 score, you watch him go down. You watch him get sacked. You watch him take a beating. In the moment, you think, my God, how have we not invested in our superstar quarterback. How do we continue to let this happen over and over and over again? And it honestly ticks me off as a Chargers fan, because Phillip Rivers deserves better. Phillip Rivers deserved the investment that Justin Herbert is now getting. He never had that kind of support. Justin Herbert, I think we finally found the method to make that happen. It had to come by, some very difficult decisions, a brand new coach that understands the core fundamentals of football, old school mentality, even if you want to label it that. But this mission has pretty much one huge headline over it for me, and it's Operation Save Justin Herbert. And a lot of people, I feel, are missing that point because Justin doesn't currently have any elite receiving weapons on the roster. And I understand that is an issue. It's a big issue. Chargers must address that soon. And it's something, quite honestly, that I think is going to be addressed either today, tomorrow in the draft, or even in free agency. Somebody's coming. I'm very positive of that. But I don't want the wide receiver need to overlook what we just did for Justin Herbert. We broke a curse. And in a season where I feel like breaking curses, moving on from the old Chargers, building something new, that's something I want to help you guys celebrate. I want to celebrate it. Selfishly, I'm excited. I want to celebrate. I want to share my enthusiasm with everybody, on Twitter and Instagram. And at that point, this morning especially, I figured that I think everybody needs some time to digest this. I'm sure everybody will come around. But y'all, I don't know if everyone was ready for that enthusiasm yet. And that's why I'm making this video. And that's why I'm trying to be as gentle in my delivery as possible with my perspective on this. Because, yeah, maybe I'm going out trying to change some hearts and perspectives a little bit. But more so, I just want to share with you guys my enthusiasm and hope that it is contagious enough to help bring a little bit more excitement to the pick. Because what Joe Alt does is tell me that the Chargers are serious about leaving this behind. Breaks my freaking heart every time I see that interview of Phillip Rivers getting ready to retire and said, shoot, he did the best he could. He did the best he could, and gets emotional. Because he did the best he could. Look at this. This was a very common occurrence week after week after week. I would be very disappointed if we started to see the same pattern develop in Justin Herbert. We owe him more. We owe him better. And this movement has begun a change, a shift in getting away from that. Because let's be honest, the same old Chargers, right? That's something that we've heard for a long time. The same old Chargers, the Chargers curse. We've been doing things the same way over and over and over and over again for a very long time. This is the first time, at least in my memory as a Chargers fan, mind you, I've only been a fan like 16 years, that I can truly say, wow, the Bolts are going full heave on the offensive line. This is probably, this current, assembly of players is the best offensive line I've seen for the Chargers ever. Joe Alt is a big part of that. And that's new. That's us breaking the mold of what's been continued plans that fall apart and at the last second bring us just the highest hopes and then the biggest despair, dropping games at the last second. This is us putting that in our past, putting that behind us, and ushering in the new. We're here to protect our franchise quarterback. We're here to give him time. We're here to support him with a balanced run and rushing attack. That run game is going to be very important to his success. And I think we're going to start seeing a lot of things like we saw in his rookie year, because let's remember, even though our offensive line was nowhere near as good as it is now, Anthony Lynn, back in his rookie year, we were a running football team. That was what he wanted. And that opened up a lot of opportunity for Justin Herbert to hit some very impressive highlight reel style throws to unknown guys like Guyton and Johnson. Those guys weren't anything big or major, not until Justin Herbert had the time to find them open deep. Just imagine the success that he had in his rookie year with a pretty subpar offensive line. I think Eckler was kind of hurt that year too. I remember it was it Boston Scott and a couple other guys that were toting the football for the Chargers. Like, not even our starters were out there. And that was already helping Justin Herbert. Now imagine that same scenario where we have one of the best O-lines in football. Bradley Bozeman's no slouch, but we still could go get a center today. We got an all-pro left tackle, probably an all-pro right tackle. We got a first-round pick in Zion Johnson. We got a pretty nice hit in terms of gem in Jamari Sawyer, who might see a bit of a boost with the new regime. This offensive line is serious, and it's all, I think, in my opinion, under the banner of let's get Justin Herbert some friggin' help. I think the biggest narrative that was shoved to the foreground when Joe Alt was picked was a bit of an anxiety of, yes, passing on Malik Neighbors, but more of, man, we are just a running football team now. We're going to run. We're going to waste Justin Herbert's talent. He's going to go, underutilized, and we're going to be bored to tears watching us get stuffed on third down over and over again. No. That is false. I'll take a stand on that. Jim Harbaugh didn't come to the Chargers to create an offense that is just purely a running offense. Maybe it's going to feel that way for a little bit, but he came to the Chargers because of Justin Herbert, and Justin Herbert has different strengths than the quarterbacks he's worked with in the past. I was just talking to Dan Wilkenstein about this morning. The Chargers trying to create an offense that's, yes, similar to the Wolverines, but I would say more similar to the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens built that offense off the strengths of Lamar Jackson. They've been very successful as to that so far. But Lamar Jackson's a different quarterback from Justin Herbert. Lamar Jackson, the mobility is the thing that you're trying to complement. And by shoving all those resources into a running attack, it opens up even more opportunity for Lamar Jackson to utilize that biggest strength of his that's taken off. Quarterback, design runs, et cetera, et cetera. Justin Herbert's not Lamar Jackson. If you're leaning into the biggest strength of Justin Herbert, it's that big arm. This is John freaking Elway on the roster. But he has no time to throw. There's no time to utilize that biggest, strongest trait for Justin Herbert. Because A, defenses have known we're passing it for the last 3 years. They have no incentive to give us any space for our receivers to get open, especially deep. And B, Justin Herbert just hasn't had the time to let those routes develop and get open. He's got the arm, just not the time. Joe Alt changes that tremendously. Sure, he doesn't fix it alone. You're only as strong as your weakest link on the offensive line. But this, I almost guarantee you, is one of the best, highest quality options that you're going to find in the entirety NFL at right tackle. I guarantee it. Because remember, this could be, and I'm going to, if you guys want a hot take or whatever, I'm going to say it right now. Joe Alt and Penei Sewell are going to be the best right tackles in the NFL for the next 10 years. That's the way I feel about this pick. Look what the Lions have been able to do with that solid offensive line with Jared Goff of all quarterbacks. What is it going to be like with a quarterback like Justin Herbert? The biggest thing that we're missing right now on this offense, which has been just completely done over in a beautiful way so far, is the weapons. Well, guess freaking what? I don't think we're done. And maybe we are. Maybe we find a different solution via free agency or trade or whatever. But this draft is completely loaded. Second round of the 2024 NFL draft could see us drafting an A.D. Mitchell, who is a wide receiver one. It could see us drafting one of these other guys that fell. What if we went and got Jackson Powers Johnson? Oh my God, the offensive line is cooking. What if we get another trench player in Johnny Newton, who's still available? We got one of the corners out there. My point is, this draft is very deep, not just in wide receiver, but everywhere, but in particularly wide receiver. Yes, I think I still see like 6 wide receivers who could still be a wide receiver one for this team. Legitimately. You got A.D. Mitchell. You got Ladd McConkey. You got Troy Franklin. You got Roman Wilson, who's not a prototypical wide receiver one, but you can think of him as wide receiver one in the same way Tyler Lockett was, where he's just this huge slot weapon. He's getting most of the work, and he's putting up the yards. He's wide receiver one, even though he's not the X receiver. There's actually quite a few slot guys like that I love. This receiving core, or this receiving group, is loaded in this year's draft. And remember, Keenan Allen himself was a third-round pick. This draft is way better than Keenan Allen's draft in terms of receiver as well. And I think I fully believe that we're going to find a weapon in the draft. That's kind of where I'm at. And again, I might be eating crow, and after the fact this video comes out, we didn't get a receiver. Bold fam is in turmoil. But I think that this was kind of the plan all along. You get that tackle early. There is no way you're getting anyone even close to the talent of Joe Alt in the second round. But in the second round via wide receiver, you can convince me that A.D. Mitchell or McConkey or Franklin or Roman, that one of those guys can still put up wide receiver 1 production on a team that, let's be honest, is probably not going to be throwing around as many targets as they have in the past. Maybe that investment reflects that a little bit. And if you can get open, which is probably the number one thing I'm looking for, then I think you're a wide receiver 1 for this team. Roman Wilson can do that. McConkey can do that. AD can do that. Joe Alt is going to be ultimately the biggest factor in this entire draft that puts up the biggest difference every single offensive snap to help that talent out, though. So sure, I'm disappointed we didn't get an elite wide receiver. I was a little bummed. I wanted to have that Malik Neighbors hype every single week. I wanted a piece of that excitement that the Chiefs have had with their wide receivers, right? And Hill and I should say Kelsey being a receiver for them. It is exciting to think about. That's kind of what I saw in Malik Neighbors. I'm so pissed that the Chiefs went and got Xavier Worthy. That's a conversation for another day. But that doesn't mean that we're not going to find it. We're going to find our own guy. As a matter of fact, I wasn't planning on doing this in this video in particular, but I want to share with you guys just exactly what my emotions and my feelings are about this receiver class. And I really do fully expect we're going to hit on one. A.D. Mitchell, 6'4". He ran a 4.34. He'll be awesome. Make this so you can see it a little better. Troy Franklin, 6'3". He ran a 4.41. I think there's 6 players that have ran a sub 4.4 still left on the board that are still very talented receivers. Ladd McConkey ran a 4.39. One of the best separators in this class available in the second round. Keon Coleman. Some people actually comp him to Keenan Allen. He'll be there in the second round. Sure, he's not as fast, but this guy's has some of the most reliable hands you're going to find in this class. A drop rate of 3.8. Get out of town. Contested catch rate of 33. It doesn't feel like that's accurate. This is one of the more crazy contested catch guys you're going to see in the draft. He's got some highlights for days. This is a great safe option at wide receiver, available in the second round. Roman Wilson. Pearsall's gone, but those guys, some of the best separators you'll find in the draft. Him, right now, I think that's in terms of separation, route running, it's AD, it's Roman Wilson, and Ladd McConkey. Some of my favorites are still available on the board. Right? He's still there. He's a very realistic pick to the Chargers. Jalen Polk, another big body, contested catch kind of guy, 54.2. He's awesome. Legette's gone. Corley's a great speedy weapon that the Chargers could utilize as well. Worthy's gone. Burton could be a wide receiver too. I think Walker could be a wide receiver 1. This is another sub 4.4 guy. This guy's nice. 6'2". We could work with that. We can definitely work with that. And then a little further down, I think the wide receiver 1s that are still available on the board to me, these players are wide receiver 1s in our offense. A.D. Mitchell, Troy Franklin, Ladd McConkey, Keon Coleman, Roman Wilson, Jalen Polk. I think those are wide, and maybe even Corley, maybe. I think those can be wide receiver 1s in our offense. High caliber wide receiver 2s who could end up putting wide receiver 1 production up because of their talent. Guys like Burton, Walker, Baker. I like Wilson, but we need a better guy in terms of catching. McMillan, Washington, Thrash, Cowing, Smith, Rice, Washington, even down here, all the way. What would this be, the 4th or 5th round? McCaffrey, Williams. Around this point in Johnson was where I'm thinking, okay, we got ourselves our wide receivers 3 and 4. Maybe Luke is a wide receiver 3 too. That's a lot of wide receivers to consider. At least a wide receiver 2 in this class. And I think the Chargers got as good a shot as anybody to get one of these guys, for sure. Let's wait and see what happens. But ultimately, the point of this video is I don't want you guys to miss out on the excitement here. It's definitely one that it's going to take a little bit of digesting by us as a fandom. But it's one that, again, I think it was the right call. What was the... yeah, here we go. This was kind of, again, going down memory lane with some of our previous right tackles. I'll close it out with this. Joe Barksdale, Brian Bulaga, Sam Tevy, Storm Norton, Trey Pipkins, Joe Alt. We have been begging for right tackle upgrade for years. It finally happened. It's not sexy, but it's a damn sure responsible pick. I'm good with that. I'm good with that. Especially in the fact that we didn't reach. We didn't reach and get J.C. Latham, who could have probably worked out just fine. But Joe Alt is special. J.C. Latham, he's a solid tackle. He'll be solid for his career. Joe Alt, this is a potential All-Pro, maybe even Hall of Famer. Who knows if you want to go that far. I'm going to say he's more than likely going to be an All-Pro in the NFL. He's as sure of a thing at tackle as we've seen since Penei Sewell and Tristan Wirfs. Like, this is going to be a dog in the NFL. And I'm so happy that we picked him instead of the next guy. Sure, we missed out on the wide receiver that I wanted, but there are some friggin' amazing options still left in the remainder of the draft. Let's see if the Chargers decide to hit on the position a little later. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. If you like what you saw here, hit us up with a like and sub on your way out. Again, I hope that the point isn't misconstrued in this video. I'm not trying to change everybody's minds or police your opinions or make you blind to the fact that, you know, the Chargers can do no wrong. Absolutely not. What I'm trying to do is share with you guys my enthusiasm that I had to come find through my own means of research, watching the combine, understanding him as a player, and really grasping what he's going to be in the NFL. I came to discover that over my time getting ready for the draft. I know a lot of people probably feel the same way. I know 100% of Bolt fans aren't disappointed in this pick, but I know there's a big majority that are. And I hope over the next couple of days that you guys come to find the same relief and excitement that I have for the pick, as well as maybe find some comfort that the Chargers could still go get their weapons in the remainder of the draft, which 6 rounds left. At least 8 picks for the Chargers throughout the remaining 2 days. It's going to be interesting. So I'm going to be live here in like literally an hour, but enjoy this video while you can. Get excited about what the Chargers do. I'm hoping we go and get that weapon still, but Joe Alt is definitely very, very far from worst case scenario for me. Very, very far. Sure, Malik Neighbors. I would say Marvin Harrison was my number one preference. Then Malik Neighbors / Rome Odunze. But honestly, if we were sticking and picking, it was definitely Joe Alt. I will say trade down was probably my first, instinct. Like, okay, let's try and trade down, which it kind of looks like the Chargers tried to do. They brought that all the way down to the last second. And it sounds like they were still fielding calls. They didn't find the guy or the value that they wanted to trade down. So it kind of sounds like they did try the attempt at least to trade down. And then after that, it's definitely Joe Alt. And I'm far from disappointed in the pick. I have my preferences, but this is still a solid, responsible pick that's going to help us for the next 10 years. And I'll close it out with this last statement. I just said this to Dan this morning. Yes, we invested heavily in the offensive line the past, 3 or 4 years. We got the first round left tackle. We got the first round left guard. We got the first round right tackle. We might even be getting a center today. You know what that does for the future of this draft and drafts to come? Primarily, our picks are probably going to be skill positions. Because why would you, unless you're looking for depth, why would you be drafting the same positions over and over and over again? Be it the trenches, the boring picks, the responsible picks. If you guys are looking for flash and you guys are looking for excitement, it's coming. It's coming. Because when you draft this way and you have already a stud, one of the best offensive lines in football, you know what that offers you? Luxury picks. And what I mean by luxury picks, Ray Henderson could be available in the first round next year for the Chargers. We could afford to take a running back in the late first round if we wanted to. We could afford to take a wide receiver. We can afford to take these other positions as we continue to fill these other positions of need. That would probably be the pick if we didn't already have a really good offensive line. Sure, we still got to go after corner. There's other, positions that we have to hit on. But trust me, the luxury picks that you're looking for, they're coming. They're coming. You get these responsible picks out of the way. I shouldn't even say out of the way. If you hit on these responsible picks, especially with a first-round investment, eventually you're not going to need that pick for a while. And right now, we're probably not going to be drafting a tackle this high again until 2034, 2035? Keep that in mind. Well, again, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. We'll catch you next time. And as always, bolt up and stay frosty. Let's go, Joe Alt. I can't wait to see what Justin Herbert can do with an extra few seconds in the pocket, baby.